Back, everybody, to Talk of the Now podcast with Jason and Gene. Jason, how are you today?
Doing well, doing well. Just had a bunch of technical difficulties trying to use another computer, and it wound up crashing it. Um, so back to the old. So got a little bit of a delayed video, even with myself talking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm delayed. So just it looks weird, but it'll get across to everybody hopefully in the recording.
Yeah. We're waiting on our equipment guy to. We're waiting on a hedge fund provider to get us some money
Some
sooner or later.
VCs. Yeah.
We're gonna our main investor, um,
Yep.
which is me, by the way, but I don't have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this week you sent me a text and said that you were that you had your 20 for the 80s favorite 80s movies of all time. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct, and it's 20 with five honorable mentions. So
Oh, you
25.
know what?
You
Interesting you
know.
should say that because I did the
Yeah.
same. I made my list, and now let's grant it, this is not a in stone list, but
No.
it's a list that I came up with, and I'm going to go with it. Now let me ask you this.
Hmm.
So I did the same. I did 20 top 20, and I did 5 honorable mentions.
Wow.
And my first question is, do you have visuals for each one, or can you share a
I don't have
screen if you?
visuals. I'm going to say I have visuals for 18 out of the 25.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to, which I was going to do, is for the ones that I have not bought yet, I was going to just share a screenshot of. I don't know if you could
Ah.
share a screen, but you could. I was going to share a screenshot of the ones that I didn't. So, how about this? Do you want to do a countdown from 20 down to 1 for you, and then maybe next week or next time I'll do my 20? So,
Okay.
and then at the end, do you want to do your honorable mentions first, or you want to do them after you do your top 20?
I think I'm going to do my honorable mentions first.
Okay, well, you have the floor, Jason. So you just go for it, and I will. I'll give you. After you give each one, I guess I'll give you a little of my thoughts on what you're picking there and what I think of it.
All right. So 25. Are we ready? This is 5 of these are in the honorable mentions. Didn't make it in the top 20. Um, so number 25 is The Last Starfighter. Now, this is an interesting one. I don't have a visual for this one. For some reason, I don't own it. I thought I did. I probably own it digitally. Um, so this is a story of a kid who basically had no life outside of a trailer park that he helped out with and was a maintenance guy in this trailer park somewhere in California, and plays this video game called Last Starfighter, and it becomes a training program, and the real people come to show up to come and train him, including Robert Preston playing Centauri, and that was the last film role for Robert Preston before he died. So, number 24, Romancing the Stone, another one I don't have a visual for. That one was basically just another 80s adventure movie. And I like that one a lot. Let's see. This one I do have a visual aid of sorts for, but it's in the Blu-ray of the complete saga, and that would be actually Empire Strikes Back, my favorite of all Star Wars movies.
Ah,
It barely made it into the 80s, but I put that in as an honorable mention because it's not necessarily an 80s movie per se. It is, but it's not. One of my other honorable mentions, which I have a weird boutique copy of, number 22, is Rad. Now, Rad was a BMX thriller movie. BMX was and freestyle bikes was big in the 80s, and I was into it. And this was a very cheesy movie that a company took the time to go back and restore frame by frame. But it has Lori Loughlin in it, and probably her first movie, or at least first movie as an adult. You can kind of see her in some of the pictures there. Um, anyway, set in a fictional town, which turns out to be it was filmed in Canada. And then let's see, my number 21, the last of the, we'll call them honorable mentions, is going to be in a multi-disc combo Walmart grab, and it's the top one of this: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And that one is a good adventure movie, but it's also one of, to me, John Hughes' funnier movies as well. And it was, Steve Martin, John Candy, one of the few Thanksgiving setting movies, actually. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But amazingly enough, officer, the radio still works.
Okay, so sorry, what I had a technical difficulty there myself. What was the what was that honorable mentions again?
Last Starfighter.
Okay.
Romancing the Stone. The Empire Strikes Back. Rad. And Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Now,
interesting.
Empire Strikes Back is not an honorable mention in my complete movies best of all time. It's just for the 80s. Because there's so many 80s movies.
I would have thought that Rad would have been higher up on your list. Interesting.
Yeah, I know.
And I would have thought Empire Strikes Back would have been way, way, way higher up on your list. So, okay. I'm going to be interested to see what this 20 looks like.
Like I said, it took a lot of time, and it's more just these are just 25 great movies from the 80s, so it's hard to really rank it.
Well, I mean, and I wanted them to be these are yours. So
yeah, and I've got different reasons,
Okay.
So the next movie, number 20, so we're into the 20s, is 3 Men and a Baby.
Interesting. Okay, why?
This one just hilarious. It's that one of those situational movies where people are thrown into a situation where these three guys, easily, one of the, I guess, top like adult male actors of the 80s, are thrust into this crazy situation of a baby being dropped off at their apartment's front door, and they've got to raise it. So it's just everything you can imagine going wrong with three bachelors trying to raise a baby, trying to take care of a baby. And interesting enough, obviously the mother comes into play later, and then there's a sequel to this, 3 Men and a Little Lady. Not quite as good, but Steve Guttenberg, had to leave his Short Circuit and Police Academy days, and Tom Selleck, is Tom Selleck. There's, Ted Danson, of Cheers fame. So, yeah, that one is my number 20. So, now, you've probably never heard, and it looks kind of silly and a little bit strange, this movie. The cover looks, but you can definitely tell it's an 80s guy.
Number 19.
Number 19, Campus Man.
I've heard of it.
Campus Man, well, this guy is a collegiate diver, and his best friend, who is not an athlete, his roommate and his best friend, basically signs him up as a cover model for the Man of the 80s for Image magazine without his permission. And you can imagine the whole rigmarole that goes with that. So very set in Arizona, I think at Arizona State University. So just a very 80s movie. You watch it, I mean, the clothing, the plot line, the fact that they're, man of the 80s, and, it's this guy who looks like your typical jock from any 80s movie, who usually would play, somebody like this would play a jerk in the movie, but he actually is a good guy. He just kind of gets, taken down the wrong thing. But that's Campus Man. Took me a while to find that on DVD.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Right. Now, let me find. This one's an interesting one. And
number 18.
Say what you will about these movies, but I like the original of these, the Muppet Movie.
Not
the Great Muppet Caper, not Muppets Take Manhattan, but the original, the Muppet Movie.
Okay.
and it was just your typical live action Henson creation. It just had everything in it. I like the others too, but this one opens up Kermit singing "Why Are There So Many Songs About Rainbows?" The Rainbow Connection in the Okefenokee Swamp. So I remember seeing that in the theater when I was obviously really young, like 6. So that one is number 18. Gene, for number 17.
Yes.
Shall we play a game?
You didn't give me a chance to comment on that last one.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. The Muppet movie. Yes. What is your take on that one?
All right. First off, no judgments here. Well, there could be certain, depending on if you had certain movies, but I think that was a good one. I think I would not have thought of that one. And again, it's everybody's experience when they look at these things and they go through them. There's a reason why that has a lot of meaning to you, and the reason why you like it a lot. Last week, right. I think that I mentioned that I like the movie Annie, and you're like, yeah, not for me. But
right.
So that's why I think that's a good choice. Anyway, go ahead. Number 17.
So I missed the lead in, but shall we play a game? War games. War games, is your typical 80s, holy crap, we're scared of the Soviets movie. Typical Cold War movie where a kid breaks into the back door of the Defense Department's new computer through a game and gets it to launch a, missile strike on the U.S., the Soviets. So
as a kid, I had no idea what was going on in that movie.
Yeah, it was kind of odd because it came out at a time when you and I were younger. I knew what was going on, but I wasn't quite up on it.
It just seemed weird.
But it was really one of the first times I ever saw like the internet, somebody calling in to a computer. So very, very interesting. You actually had to dial the number and then put the phone receiver onto the little speakers to be able to, the microphone speakers to get it to dial. So it was listening to the tones. So very, very archaic, but amazing for the time. One of Ali Sheedy's first movies too.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And, did well in that. Matthew Broderick did a good job in that, playing a whiny, geeky boy, which is, most of his roles. So, so anyway, that, sir, is number 17.
Well, I like that movie in some ways. It's I still find it to be kind of a weird movie, but it was definitely ahead of its time. And by the way, we have not matched anything yet in our top 20, but we did match one with your honorable mentions. So carry on then.
Okay. Number 16 I do not have a visual aid for, and that's Major League. I don't own that one. But what kid that liked baseball didn't like that movie? It was basically the calmer, kind of Bull Durham, more family friendly Bull Durham. To me, had that same kind of, but to me more successful cinematically than Bull Durham was. Just had the better cast, and it was a lot more comedic, and it was, it didn't take itself too seriously.
Interesting.
Just the whole idea of a team that's always stunk coming back and winning the pennant to spite the owner who's trying to move the team. Who especially in the Atlanta area in the 80s, couldn't relate to that.
A lot of good one-liners in that movie.
Yep.
California Penal.
Hey, bartender, Joe Boo needs a refill.
I always like when you may run like Maze,
but you hit like, yeah. So let me look here. Number 15, believe it or not, I do not have a visual for, and that's 16 Candles.
Yes. I thought you owned that.
I think I own it digitally. I for some reason don't own it on hard copy. Well, I probably should have to remedy that sometime when they come out with a massive John Hughes Blu-ray set. But John Hughes directed, written, movie set in Imagine that, Chicago. And just writing the teenage struggle and the teenage mind so much better. And one of the pioneers of having like funny stuff going on in the background while there's somebody talking in the front, the foreground. And basically the whole idea is Molly Ringwald's character turning 16, but her sister's also getting married on the same day. And the parents forget the birthday. Everybody forgets her birthday because there's other stuff going on. It's that whole struggle of like, Dave, I think, you want to say something to me today. It's that whole thing. And plus she's in love with like the jock guy, but she's kind of the, a little bit more shy, demure person, which is what, Molly Ringwald plays so well. So I think that's one of John Hughes' greatest movies. He didn't really make a lot of bad movies.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
My take on 16 Candles is, it's not on my list, by the way, but golly, you had to be alive in the 60s, the 80s to understand how much that was such a high schooler kind of movie. Like how so many high schoolers just love that movie. And the funny thing is that that's like a movie, to me, it's one of those movies that sort of, it didn't really, if it was made today, it would be close to a rated R movie. I mean, it was PG. It'd easily be a PG-13 movie by some of the scenes, and some of the language in it, and everything.
Yeah, but it was a little more of one of his more risque movies, actually, because John Hughes tended to stray from, tended to stay away from nudity and all that stuff, and it's the only one that really has like big time nudity in it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's got a lot of derogatory things that are said in it, and just sort of crazy.
Yeah.
But okay, so let me ask you this: who's your favorite character in that movie? Because I know who I think who mine is.
I know yours is probably Long Duck Dong.
No, it's not Long Duck Dong. He's the funniest though.
I mean, Anthony Michael Hall in that one. I
was going to say Anthony.
Come
Michael
on.
Hall.
I mean, it's hard to beat him in that movie.
Nice John Cusack cameo in there too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's one of the geeky kids at the dance. Yeah.
Now, okay, that movie was that movie before or after Breakfast Club? After, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Good. I just
they were all released like so fast and so together. It's hard to
Yeah. Great soundtrack on that one, by the way.
Oh, of course, he always had a good soundtrack. Yeah.
It was a great soundtrack. The soundtrack was almost just as good as the movie.
Oh yeah. He John Hughes did a good job of getting, and John Hughes, put a lot of artists on the map, putting their songs in his movies. He was very good.
That movie. My other point about that movie is that it shifts so many different gears. Like there's parts of it where it's a really romantic movie. Then there's other parts where it's a complete hysterical comedy. And then there's other parts where it's just like, like some sort of serious social undertone to it. It's kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah. Again, that's John Hughes, though. He did that in a lot of his movies. All right. So we ready for the next one?
Number 14.
Number 14. One of the only things we got out of Lucasfilm that was fairly big. Also starred one of my favorite actors of all time, Val Kilmer, and that's Willow.
Ah, yes. Good old Willow.
Willow came out, in the midst of us going, hey, we want another Star Wars fantasy there, George. And he said, no, I'm going to give you this just straight up fantasy that's weird and nobody really knows about it. But Warwick Davis is also one of his, favorite actors too. He's been in a lot of the Star Wars movies. He was actually Wicket, the most popular Ewok. So yeah, just another good one. Val Kilmer playing a good action role. A strange movie, but really well done. And obviously, costume and set design and art direction just phenomenal.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah, it is a fun movie. So that's my number 14.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if I can find here it is. Number 13. Inconceivable. The Princess Bride. This one was actually a novel that had been around for a while, and somebody took a chance on making it like a comedic kind of love story movie.
I didn't know this.
And you know, Andre the Giant, Carrie Elways, you know, all these people in this movie. Mandy Patinkin, obviously being most people's favorite, Inigo Montoya. You know, and a good quotable movie. One that surprised me when I saw it in the theaters in the 80s. I was like, whoa, that was a really good movie. Fred Savage, you know, it's all written around his grandfather, who's also Columbo.
That's right.
Reading him the story from the book while he's at home sick. Reading Fred Savage the story. And so it's like, it's one of those stories within a story movies. Which is a lot of the 80s. I didn't even put Neverending Story on my list, but it's kind of the same idea without transporting the kid into the story. But
you know, the thing about that, my thought on that movie is that it's one of those movies. I mean, I hate using this cliche, but it's timeless.
It is timeless.
That movie could have been made last year with the same plot and everything,
and would have been just as successful. Yep.
Right.
You know, and rest in peace, Andre the Giant. You know, very lovable in that movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard for him, obviously, being typecast, being so huge. But yeah, just very, very well done. The whole movie, just, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, who's the director of that one again?
This was Rob Reiner.
Well, okay, that was Rob Reiner. He skirted the line really well on not being a too goofy of a movie. Like, it comes close to, I mean, it comes close, but it doesn't go to that Men in Tights type of, you know.
No, and the thing was, yeah, I kind of I saw Men in Tights expecting it to be more like this, but not really thinking about, you know, the title being silly. So it didn't go the Mel Brooks way completely,
right.
You know. But yeah, so this one definitely is one of, you know, it was hard. Like I said, this list was hard because there's a lot of them that are great. All right, so we're ready for number 12.
Howard the
number
Duck.
12. No, number 12. Yes, that's another
number one. Sorry,
that's another Lucasfilm movie that we, you know, try to forget. So number 12 is actually the first DVD I ever bought. I still own it.
Okay.
Roxanne.
You don't have to put on the red light. Wow.
Steve Martin, Daryl Hannah, basically another retelling of Cyrano de Bergerac. And, you know, a guy with a big nose tries to get the girl, but he's actually, you know, the other guy likes the girl and the girl likes the other guy, and he's having to basically put on the fact that he's that person. So it's a classic tale retold in the 80s in a Rocky Mountain ski town. And, you know, Steve Martin, just the scene in the bar where he bets the guy that he can come up with 20 better insults for his big nose, and he just said to him, calling him big nose, is probably one of the best moments in cinema to me. 20 something's better is what he calls it. And just phenomenal. I mean, it's Steve Martin at his greatest, you know.
Well, one of the things I was going to say is that is another movie that's just a fun movie to watch.
Yeah. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's, you know, there's no huge agenda with it. It was just really well done.
I mean, back in the day, that would have been a good date movie.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah. I think I watched it on a date, actually, not in the theater, obviously, but still. And that'll be enough of that. Okay. So my next one, number 11, is a I don't actually have the original of this, so I've got the redo, the second story, and I'll cover up the bottom. Tron.
Oh yes, good old Tron, a Disney classic.
Yeah, Disney classic that was way ahead of its time. You know, Star Wars level way ahead of its time, honestly, with its visuals, to the point where you expected it to be a Skywalker sound ILM movie, but it was not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to a point, it kind of like says something about Disney's Imagineering at the time. As much as they can be really twisted and mean and deceptive now, that was just some of their best work. So yeah,
Yeah, that movie.
Tron.
As a kid, I loved that movie. I saw it on cable one time as a kid, and I was just like, "This is the craziest thing I've ever seen."
Yeah, another like deep dive into computer technology back in its infancy.
I was about to say that was another one of those movies where you can kind of get an idea of people's fascinations with computers back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
And the thing that I don't know if they've ever come up with like the whatever they called the little motorcycles that were in the game. I mean, that was one of the
light
coolest.
cycles. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things, and they were very cool in the sequel, by the way, as well.
Yeah, they did, and they had one of the old ones in there. That was really neat.
I mean, I don't know if the sequel did well, but I actually kind of enjoyed the sequel.
No, I like the sequel. I thought the fact that they tied it enough to the original, really interwove it with the original, and did a good job with it, and kept the same feel, the kind of dark feel, because it was a dark movie, kind of along the lines of The Black Hole from Disney, which if you watch it, you're like, how is this even a Disney movie? All right, so that's number 11. Now, number 10, I actually don't have a hard copy of, and that's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yet another John Hughes classic.
Ferris, you're my hero.
Written in the hotel room while they were filming Breakfast Club, actually.
Did not know that.
Yeah, they wrote it. He wrote it in the hotel room. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about this script?" To one of his friends, like, "Oh, you're going to make this into a movie, right?" There is a rumor that Ferris is actually made up and didn't really exist, and it's just a figment of Cameron's imagination. But I don't know if that's really true or not. If you watch the movie, you can kind of put that. If you watch it with that kind of filter in your brain, you can kind of see how that happens. But so that's you had another John Hughes movie on my list. So
it does make me laugh. That movie makes me laugh every time I watch it.
It's a great movie. Number 9. So now we've broken into the top 10. Number 9, another Lucas movie, this time with a Spielberg twist to it. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
The first of the Indiana Jones movies. These are packaged as Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's really Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was the first of them. It was, the first of the adventure history archaeologist movies. Later movies such as, National Treasure did a good job of kind of having that feel to it. But, Harrison Ford in his prime, man, still making the movies, honestly. We just like to forget about the fourth one. I haven't seen the fifth one, actually. So this one to me is true to the thing, like, hey, we're going to try this idea out and see if it works, and so it gets my vote, number 9.
Yeah, that's a good one,
and it's the only one of the 3 that's in my countdown.
Yeah,
even though I like the other 2, I just I couldn't give everybody a number. I mean, come on.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, so
I have more to say about that one, but that's a good one.
You do?
Well, that's okay though. I'll save it for mine because it's on my list. I'll spoil it right there.
All right, so number 8's the movie my mom warned me about before we went to go see it I went to go see it with Dad, that somebody dies in it. Top Gun.
Top Gun.
The
Cougar.
Cougar. Yeah.
Yeehaw! Jester's dead. Sorry.
Slider, you stink.
Great nicknames in that movie.
Oh my gosh, just all over the place. And another one with Val Kilmer, playing a great role. Very understated to me, I think, as Iceman. But just a well done movie. Another one that almost didn't get made. If you watch the movies that made us on that streaming service with the red N, it's on there, and they talk about how it was just a feat to try to get it past the executives. And it's so funny how some of these movies that we think of as iconic almost never got made.
Was that one of Bruckheimer's first movies?
Yep, this is one Jerry Bruckheimer, Don Simpson movie. Don Simpson died Interestingly enough, in case you didn't know, Don Simpson actually played one of the race car drivers in Days of Thunder later on, another movie. He played Aldo Benedetti, a fictional race car driver in that movie. He only has like one line, but that's Don Simpson, one of the fellow producers with Jerry Bruckheimer. And, Jerry Bruckheimer was the master all the way up into the 90s of the summer blockbuster movie.
That's true.
Movies that aren't going to win too many awards, but are enjoyable and you can escape into them and you can have fun. That was a lot of the 80s though, right? That was a lot of the 80s. That's how we escaped.
I gotta say, it's just my personal opinion, and I know, artistic interpretation, whatever.
Right.
I don't know if there was a bigger bummer than seeing Goose. Sorry if it spoils it for anybody, but seeing Goose die in that movie, it's like, I just remember being a kid saying, "Are you kidding me?"
That's what my mom warned me about. She's like, "Now, son," because I was an emotional kid. So, but yeah, they do it. And then in the sequel that they just came out with, I mean, talk about a great movie again. I just was like, wow.
I still got to see that one.
I mean, it's just well done is the word I say to them. Well done for the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
It took forever to come out, but it's just a movie that's fun again. Like Hollywood can make a fun movie again.
Exactly.
All right, so that's number 8. Number 7.
I'm writing these down, by the way. Sorry.
One of Patrick Dempsey's first movies, one of them. Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh, I knew it.
Can't Buy Me Love. The lawn boy helps out the cheerleader and gets popular from it.
I need to watch that one again.
I mean, just a great movie. Patrick Dempsey, when he started his race team, Dempsey Racing later on, he had a shirt that had the lawnmower outline on it, the van from With Honors, and then the new race car. So he's like, all my vehicles, basically. I just thought that was really well done. But yeah, just a classic, 80s. I mean, 80s hair, 80s sets, 80s. And another one set in Arizona.
I was about to say, this kind of reminds me, like there was this weird subgenre of the 80s, and I don't know if you call them like goofy comedy romance stories. Like the one that always confused me with this one was which for some reason I don't know why I would. What was that called? Just One of the Guys, or Another One of the Guys, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like similar to that one, and there's another one.
Yeah, there are a lot of those. There are a lot of those movies. They're very
even
similar.
Soul Man, which is not B. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, so I had to make a last-minute switch.
Oh, okay. Look out!
My number 8, or my number 6. I mean, my number 6 was Mystic Pizza. Good movie. Julia Roberts' first movie. She actually got the job because she worked at Mellow Mushroom Pizza in Smyrna, Georgia. Wow. So she got the job because it's centered around a pizza joint.
I did not know that.
And the rest is history with her. She opened that insanely huge mouth for her face, and the rest is history. So I switched it though because I thought, no, I'm missing one. I'm missing a Henson classic, Labyrinth.
Labyrinth. Okay.
And this is look at this. Look at that. Bought from Blockbuster Video.
Another Jennifer Connelly movie too, huh?
Yeah, her first. And fell in love with her then, still in love with it. No, I'm kidding.
Let me ask you this. Why would you rank this one higher than Willow? Just out of curiosity.
I just think it was better done. Okay. I think it was a better done movie all around.
I need to watch it again. Yeah.
Very dark. Very dark. Not as dark as The Dark Crystal, which is not on my list. But still a dark movie. There's so many undertones in it about just a lot of things, but it's also just Jim Henson's Creature Shop did a really good job with it. Anyway, so that's Labyrinth. You remind me of the Babe. What Babe? Babe with the power. What power? Power of voodoo. Who do? You do. Do what? Remind me of the Babe. Yes. just a great movie. I actually went and saw it on its anniversary showing in the theater again. That was really cool.
Okay, number 5.
All right, number
Anyway.
5 is the first of 2 Savage Steve Holland movies. Now, Savage Steve Holland didn't do a lot, but was just kind of one of those crazy guys that are like, hey, let's do that. In fact, so crazy, he called this one One Crazy Summer
Oh,
with John
nice.
Cusack and Demi Moore. It's got to be one of her first ones. And this is about a kid going up to his grandmother's house up in, I want to say it was Nantucket. Yeah, the island of Nantucket. And it's just the craziest thing. It's got Bobcat Goldthwait. I mean, that alone shows you, what it's, it's not going to take itself seriously.
I got to
at
rewatch
all.
that one again.
This one was just great. And of course, Gene, if you want to borrow any of these, you can. Yeah, this one just, I haven't been able to find it on Blu-ray yet. It's just that obscure. But I just happened to find it in one of those crazy bins at a Walmart a long time ago. It's like $5 movie. So I was like, no way. So it's even the old school flip open like this DVD, But yeah, this is just a great one. Savage Steve Holland, just it's a crazy movie, Borderline in some places, like it could almost go to be a little more R-rated-ish, but it never does. So that is number 5. Number 4, we get into one of the larger movies. Now, this is the double pack, so please forgive the number 2 of these. Ghostbusters.
Oh, Ghostbusters. Okay,
To
interesting.
me, it doesn't get much more 80s movie than Ghostbusters.
I feel like they were having a draft here or something. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's true. Ivan Reitman. What do you say? That cast, it's just crazy, and it got everybody interested in, ooh, I want to go. And it spawned a cartoon series on Saturday mornings. It even spawned this one, which we try to forget. And it spawned the new one, the newest one that came out, which was actually a good movie. Ghostbusters Afterlife. We forget forget about the one with the female cast. This is the one, with Paul Rudd. Did a great job in it. It's a good homage. It's a good, it's a good send off to Harold Ramis too. Rest in peace. They did a good job of an homage to him. It had me in tears in the theater, honestly. Just a great movie. Great. Ray Parker Jr. Ray Parker Jr. put him on the map.
I was actually going to mention that and say, again, going back to, you had to have lived in the 80s to know how much that song was on the radio all the time.
And, before that, Ray Parker Jr. was, with the band Radio. And he also did the song, I'm in Love with the Other Woman. That song, great stuff, but really kind of a rock soul kind of guy along the kind of Lionel Richie style. But that movie put him on the map.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're into my top 3. Here's the podium. All right. The top 3, the bronze medal goes to one that I actually don't have a hard copy of. And that would be Pretty in Pink.
Okay.
One of my favorite John Hughes movies.
Yet you don't have a copy yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? I thought I did, but I guess not. I think I'm waiting to buy that on like a Steelbox Blu-ray or something when it comes out. But anyway, so Pretty in Pink, to me, obviously, it's the reject in high school, gets the popular preppy guy. Imagine that plot. Obviously, put the Psychedelic Furs on the map with that song, with the title song for that. And just a great soundtrack all around, as all of John Hughes movies are. But just a great movie.
That movie has some parallels. It could almost be a sequel to 16 Candles. It was
in a way. It kind of had. Because he recycled a lot of the same cast too.
Yeah, but Ducky sort of steals the show in a lot of way. That character.
Oh
Ducky.
Gosh, yeah, John Cryer.
He kind of, you could tell he gave it his all in that role.
John Cryer interacting with Andrew Dice Clay in that movie. Annie Potts as the record store manager lady. Just so many over the top great actors
And again,
actresses.
you got John Hughes going different. He's got 3-4 different gears there. He's going into romantic, comedic, and then there's a
Yep.
serious undertone of social, undertones.
Yeah, there is.
So it's very interesting how he worked those.
Yeah. Even the guy who played the dad, who's now dead, I don't remember his name, but he did a great job. He always played his dad in Red Dawn too. Which is not on my list, which dang it, I forgot about that one.
Another honorable mention.
Yeah, I really needs to be a top 50. But with another 20 honorable mentions on top of that, because there are just so many movies, back to back to back in the 80s. All right, so Silver Medal
number 2.
This is again just me. I mean, some of these could be switched around in order. All right, number 2, another John Cusack movie, a very kind of understated, off the wall kind of movie. Hot Pursuit.
Hot Pursuit. Interesting number 2.
Hot Pursuit. 80s movie. Set in the 80s. Just a frustrating, keeps missing somebody, like almost gets to them and then something happens movie. Just a great plot. A great kind of sleeper movie. He's basically trying to join his girlfriend and her parents on a vacation, but he can't go because he's about to fail chemistry class. But the professor, lets him do it anyway, lets him go anyway, but it's just a little late everywhere he goes. So it's just the whole chasing down that whole thing and all the other drama that goes with it without giving it away to anybody. Great movie. Just like I said, no critical review, nothing,
interesting,
whatever when it came out, but it was just one of those ones that surprised me.
I don't know if I've seen it more than once. Maybe I need to watch it again.
Ben and Jerry Stiller, one of Ben Stiller's kind of first movies, I think. And they're an interesting role in that. So that's my number 2. So the Silver Medal.
Interesting. All right, drum roll.
And if you haven't figured out what my number 1 80s movie is yet, Gene, you don't know me that well.
Howard the Duck. Come on, Howard.
Nope. Because truly, I'm sorry your mom blew up, Ricky.
Oh, Better Off Dead.
Better Off Dead. It doesn't get more 80s off the wall. And yes, a savage Steve Holland film. Just total crazy one-liner movie. I mean, silly movie. Made everybody and their, brother want an old 60s Camaro.
Oh yeah, I love that. Camaro is my favorite car.
Yeah,
basically
the hideaway headlight, Camaro. It's just amazing. Your typical geeky guy challenges the jock over a girl, but there's another girl trying to help him out, and you can just kind of see where that goes. Just a great movie. In this movie, there's a lot of songs that sound like artists that we know, but they're not.
Except for Van Halen.
Right. Obviously Van Halen. Yeah. Everybody wants some, but really other than that, it's just one guy that did all these movies and you'd swear like Duran Duran was doing a song. You'd swear somebody, but it's not, he's just trying to sound like him. So just a very good movie, a very good 80s film. That's my list that I could come up with. Obviously along the way, I've forgotten about some.
Interesting.
But if we pared it down to even more like to categories of movies during the 80s, it would be easier. I'd probably put some different ones in there. But just as a general list, that's my top 25.
Interesting. Better Off Dead's your favorite one. Okay, so here's a few thoughts. You're clearly a John Cusack fan.
Well, I just think
on your list a lot.
Well, you could throw a rock in the 80s movies realm and hit John Cusack,
You didn't have to say anything on there. That's interesting.
For good reason.
I haven't seen that movie actually.
It was depressing.
Okay.
To me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at your list here and I wrote everything down. And I've got the disadvantage for you going to bat first is I get to see your hand and and rethink my list over the next week.
Should have thought about that.
As I, as I go through, just to see if I want to add or delete anything. I don't really think so too much. We had a few, and I already mentioned one, but I won't mention any others. We had a few doubles, not many, honestly.
Yeah, which is good. That shows you how well we know movies, that you can have a bunch that I'll probably like yours too. I'll be like, oh, that movie. Oh yeah, that movie. That'll be me.
Okay, so here's my surprises for you on yours.
What's that?
I was surprised to see Three Men and a Baby.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see the Muppet Movie. A little surprised to see Major League.
Really?
A little. A little surprised to see. Let's see. Most other thing, Tron, no surprise. Raiders, no surprise. Top Gun, no surprise.
Right.
Maybe a little surprised to see Ghostbusters on there. I didn't know you were
Really?
as much of a fan of that as you are. Okay.
I mean, I was more of a fan then than I am obviously now, but I think just for reasons of the fact that it was an influential movie on me in the 80s is when I was really more. That's kind of how I filtered this list out a little bit, because I could have 100 on this list,
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, my filter was the 20 it's revised, because I didn't go by what would my 20 list be if it were 1989 or 1995. I just kind of did, looking back on my own retrospective and what I like now and what I like then, kind of, putting it all in the pot and stirring it up type thing, whatever. Because there's a few on there that I would not have been a fan of in, say, 2004. Pretty in Pink. So top 5 was One Crazy Summer, Ghostbusters, Pretty in Pink, Hot Pursuit, and Better Off Dead. I'm not surprised Better Off Dead is your number 1. I am surprised that a few did not show up on your top 20, I'll be honest. And that includes, I'm a little surprised that Back to the Future was not in there. I was a little surprised about that. Maybe you're not as big of a fan as I am.
No, I am. Yeah, I told you there were some obvious ones that failed me, and that was one of them. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you could revise it at some point. Let's see if there was any others that may not have been there that I would thought had made it. Let's see. Yeah, you kind of mentioned it, but I was a little surprised you didn't throw Last Crusade in there, because that's one of my all-time favorite.
Yeah, well, honestly, putting Raiders of the Lost Ark in there was kind of my vote for all 3, if that makes sense. Because I didn't want to put too many of the series of things in there.
I mean, I understand that. I mean, it does kind of make for a boring list, I guess, if you said my top 3 movies are Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars. I mean, I guess that, or The Lord of the Rings. That's my top 3 movies. You almost want to say you just throw the whatever trilogy or your top favorite 2 of that one. So
you just throw Mama under the train. Whoa.
I might be a little surprised you didn't throw Footloose in there.
I thought about it. I did.
Yeah. Wasn't even an honorable mention though, so that's interesting.
Well, again, this list could really be 50 to 100 long.
And you didn't throw Uncle Buck in there. I don't know if you had one. Did you have a John Candy movie in there?
Yeah, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh, Gene, I forgot one. Great Outdoors. Holy crap!
Another timeless one, actually.
Yeah, exactly. But again, they're all John Hughes movies. Those, Uncle Buck, Great Outdoors, all John Hughes. So, you could throw most of those into the same boat.
I was trying to. Okay. Yeah, and and looking at your list as well, I was trying to think if you threw in. I thought that, I was going to say, if you're going to have sort of a B movie that most people would be like, what? Rad might have been that movie had you put it in the top 20, but I didn't really see, like a cult following type movie. Your closest you got, I think, in your top 20 might have been War Games.
Yeah, but that was a fairly successful movie.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, cinematically.
Maybe Hot Pursuit. Maybe that was kind of a.
Yeah, that was kind of a fell between the cracks movie is what I call that one.
Yeah, which came really high on your list, by the way. Interesting. I'm just giving you a little analysis here. What I thought.
Yeah.
The Campus Man, that might be sort of a. I don't know if that was a big blockbuster.
No, it was not.
Okay.
But when I just thought about 80s and I thought about the aesthetics of a movie, that one came into my mind. And I was like, I wonder if I have, I do have that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was also kind of my filter too, what I had as kind of I let that be a little bit more of a kind of a chiseling down.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the list could be 50.
It's hard to chisel down, no doubt.
Yeah.
You had as your honorable mentions Romance in the Stone, Rad, Empire Strikes Back, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. What was your fifth one?
What was that? Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter. Now that's a cult following movie.
Yeah, great movie though. Great movie. Yeah.
I need to watch that one again. And you've also given me some movies to go back and watch to see what I think of them again.
And again, Gene, if you need to rent from me, you can rent anything you want.
And you people on the other end of this microphone just don't know how true that is for Jason. Okay, wow. So
This is one of our longer podcasts, by the way.
Well, that's okay. We had a few technical difficulties, so it'll be spliced together. Hopefully, they won't know the difference.
Spliced together, weird. Yes, pay no attention. That's why I couldn't change my shirt in a minute because it'd be like everybody would know.
So all these movies, are there any that? So this is your top 20. Are there any that you're hoping to get on Blu-ray or get a better type of deal sometime soon?
You know, I don't really buy much anymore, so it's kind of hard. I'm still looking for that boutique copy of Rad because the one I have is a DVD. But that one's like a $50 movie, so I was like,
Gotcha.
The lack of disposable income right now kind of
that's all right.
Like I said, I mean, I would like to get like some of the more visual movies like Labyrinth, Tron, those kind of things that have been remastered.
Have they updated Better Off Dead, or you still have to get the dinky first time they ever issued?
Yeah, you do have to get that. Yep.
So they've never done any type of special editions, huh?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do some research. They may have, there might be a Best Buy exclusive, in that tiny little movie section at Best Buy or something like that.
I like it, Jason. I like that top 20. It's going to be a lot different than mine, but I like it.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's how it should be. We're two different people,
I mean, I think, I think we may have only had 3 matches, maybe 2.
That's insane. Wow.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 matches maybe 4 with the honorable mentions, but that's about it.
Well, I did think a lot harder on this list than I normally would. So
yeah,
again, there are some that I obviously missed.
Hey, speaking of missed, did you know your favorite movie was in the Fathom events this week?
Oh, really?
They had American Graffiti's 50th anniversary.
Oh, American Graffiti
this week.
Oh, yeah, that would have been cool to go see.
It was in there last night and on the 28th, I think, which I thought about, but I was like, whoa, didn't know that was out there till somebody I'd heard about it. So
I know. Well, anyway,
they might be having a 50th anniversary edition, I think, come out or something. Who knows? All right. Well, Jason, we'll wrap it up on that one. That was a good list.
All right, folks. Hopefully we wowed you people with our movie choices. And remember, as always, like and subscribe.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All right, Jason. See ya.
All right, now. Bye.